Why hello, and welcome to the Crusty Fox. Welcome also to my lodge, where I'm hosting a very exclusive event celebrating first 1,500 and now 2,000 subscribers for the channel. And the way I'm celebrating that today is with a long-trailed Ask Me Anything video. Firstly, thank you very much to everybody who sent in questions. I thought I might get none and look like an idiot, so you've saved me from that. And secondly, bit of a disclaimer, but do bear with me because this is the first time I'm making a video for YouTube that isn't scripted, so this could go either way. My first set of questions come from Lavender Amethyst 6050, who asks, do you have a background in performing arts, stand-up comedy, script writing, etc.? Short answer, no. Long answer, no stand-up, because I think I would die of fright. No performing arts really, but I do some singing. And I do have a bit of script writing experience, but not professionally. I wrote a TV pilot, probably about 5 or 6 years ago, that placed in a few contests but didn't get any traction, obviously, because here I sit on YouTube. If you don't, would you ever consider a career in any of these related fields? Yes, I would. Script writing, actually. But a lot of it is location-based and look-based and connection-based, and I'm all for 3. Plus, I'm definitely not going to move to LA and do what I think you're expected to do, which is get coffee for people for 10 years in the hopes that you can one day slip a script under their door when they're not looking. It's not for me. Also, how long does it take you on average to create a video? Oh, now you're asking. If you take one of these Sex and the Shitty videos, probably 4 hours to write the script, 2 hours to record and then edit the audio, and then probably about 10 to 15 hours to edit the video, depending on how difficult I make it for myself. So probably about 20 hours in total. But mind you, everything I'm doing is self-taught, so in all likelihood I'm making this way harder for myself than I need to. My next questions come from TieTieBaby06, who asks, was there a specific episode or moment for SATC/AGLT that made you want to start this channel? Well, funny story, the Crusty Fox actually started life as a gaming channel back in 2020, if you can believe that. I got caught up in a bit of controversy around a leak for a particular game. I don't particularly want to get into it, it's a long story, maybe for another time. But after all of that and the backlash that resulted from it, I wanted to pivot away from that and get into something else. So I thought of the entertainment niche, and I thought of Sex and the City first, not for any particular episode or moment, really. It was more to do with the fact that back in the early 2010s, I was going through a bit of a rough time, and I rewatched the series, sort of as a guilty pleasure to cheer myself up, which helped. So that was where my mind went first. See, despite how I come across sometimes, I do have some affection for the show. Do you have any advice for someone who wants to start a channel? Oh, so much that I wish I'd known when I was starting. Buckle up, kids, we're going in. So first of all, be comfortable with the idea that YouTube is going to punish you for any sense of variety on your channel. It's only the really big channels that can get away with having lots of different topics or veering between different niches, mainly because the audience is going there for the YouTuber as opposed to what they're producing. Small channels, especially new channels, are not going to have that luxury. So pick your niche very carefully, make your peace with that being where you're going to be, and that's going to be a focus for a while. And because of that, make sure it's something that you enjoy doing, because you're going to get bored real fast if it's not. Probably number one piece of advice is just be real wary of anybody who tells you that they've cracked the YouTube algorithm, because nobody has. Nobody has all the answers, and especially if they're trying to charge you for the privilege of all their knowledge, it's probably a scam. One thing that you can do is have a look at popular channels in the niche that you're going to be getting into and try to pick up on how they do their thumbnails, what their presentational style is like, what their visual style is, which videos get more views than others. Those are things that work for your intended audience, basically, so try to replicate whatever you can. And when it comes to the money side of things, this is a very variable income source, and the majority of channels don't even get monetized. So don't go into it thinking that you're going to become the next Mr. Beast, because 1, ew, and 2, probably not going to happen. My next question comes from Capt Bergerson, who also has a fantastic YouTube channel that you should all check out. He asks, I'm always curious about this sort of thing, so my question is, what is the origin of the username? I'm gonna have to disappoint you, Captain. Before this was even a gaming channel, the account was actually created as online storage back in 2009. I know, super fascinating stuff. I wish there was a clever story behind it, but there isn't. I was just trying to think of something that hadn't already been taken that was unique, and this, for some reason, is what wandered into my head at the time. Probably says more about me than it does anything else. Next up is the fantastically usernamed He Say She Say How About Me Say, who asks, what's your favourite TV show or movie? Oh, this is hard because I like lots of TV. Probably 30 Rock or Parks and Recreation. Definitely for a comedy show, that would be my pick. But I also love a TV show called Spaced from the UK in the mid-2000s, I think. Has the same cast as the Cornetto trilogy films, so it's Nick Frost, Simon Pegg, directed by Edgar Wright. I've met all three of them, incidentally. Simon Pegg and Nick Frost were assholes. Another story for another time. And for movie, should I admit to this? Probably The Devil Wears Prada. I watched it about 10 times years ago when I was recovering from surgery, and I could watch it a million more. Don't know what it is specifically, it's just one of those comfort movies that I could watch anytime, anywhere. What's your favourite way to relax on a day off? Doing nothing. And when I say nothing, I mean absolutely nothing. A day off to me is a day to disengage my brain, just to switch off completely. If I'm outside doing things, I'm not relaxing. So slowly sinking into my sofa with something good on TV or a decent game to play is my idea of heaven. Do you have a celebrity crush? Yes. Pedro Pascal, until it dropped off. Next up is Keys to Life Music School, who asks, what prompted the somewhat recent change in logo/visual style? Well, a mix of things, to be honest. In terms of the channel art, most of the original stuff was for the gaming channel, so that needed to be recycled to bring it more up to date, just to look a bit more representative of what I'm producing now. For the video style, it was more about learning what works better for people who watch the kind of videos that I make, developing my video editing skills, which are a constant work in progress, and to be honest, just restlessness some of the time. Next up is Dazed and Confused 10012, who asks, where are you from? A fair question. I'm from Northeast England, but somebody really needs to tell my accent. If you want to hear what people from my neck of the woods normally sound like, you can watch a spin-off from Jersey Shore called Geordie Shore. That'll give you a flavour of where I'm from. You are not prepared. Do not watch it with elderly relatives. Next question comes from Liam S4728, who asks, T or B? My fault for saying ask me anything, I suppose. If you don't know what that means, by the way, Google it, but do so carefully. I'm going to say this is probably better left to your imagination. Or not, depending on what else you think I'm doing while I make videos. Trust me, I'm not that bendy. My next questions come from Galway Shade, who asks, which of the men on SATC did you think were decent? Well, that depends on what you mean by decent, I guess. Ben from season 2 seemed alright from what little we actually saw of him. Harry is a good husband, but he's not my cup of tea. Smith for similar reasons, but all of his brain cells got converted to abs. Again, not my cup of tea. Steve is probably far and away the best guy on the show. I don't know whether that translates to most decent, so he's the obvious answer. But if we're talking decent as in hot, well, we'll get to that. And which of the women on the show did you think were on the level too? Well, first of all, and most importantly, Natasha did nothing wrong. I'd say Enid was closest to how a real person would react to Carrie, so that sort of ticks the box for me. I wouldn't have said so in the original show, but AJLT kind of redeemed Bitsy, so she makes my list too. And if I was going to pick one favourite, I would say Lexi, because that is the right exit strategy from any party that Carrie is also attending. Next up is Mrs. Levre. Let's just say MRSLVW, shall we? Are you a Carrie, Miranda, Charlotte, or Samantha? I'm fairly sure in one of my first videos about Sex and the City I swore that I'd never answer this question, but here we are. I would say that everybody thinks that they're a Samantha, but I know that I'm a Miranda. I don't like it, but I know it. Less so the late in life lesbian awakening, but you know, there's time yet. Next up is Redneck Lover 22, who asks, speaking as a gay man, I never thought the men of Sex and the City were particularly sexy. Am I being too picky? No, you're not. I would say that most men on the show were written to be flawed in one way or another, so it depends on whatever gives you the ick. And if they all give you the ick, then that's that. Were there any of the recurring men that made you look forward to the next episode? This might be unpopular, but Burger? Obviously, it's all about personal preference, but he's just more my type. I mean, behaviour-wise, there were a few issues, I'm not going to lie. The stuff with his ex wouldn't have bothered me so much as it did Carrie, but the acting out because of the career would have. Looks-wise, though, yes please. Plus, a post-it note breakup just sounds efficient to me, so good for him. And last up we have Smomo180, who asks, since SATC has so many flaws, is there a better show with the same premise or at least a sex positive that you would suggest? I mean, if you're just looking for a sex positive alternative, I would say Girls, but you also asked for something better, so not Girls. There isn't really much I can recommend that has exactly the same premise, but Fleabag is pretty amazing and does a much better job of the serious stuff. It's a BBC show from the UK. Fair warning though, it will rip your heart out and stamp on it. And since it's part of the same universe, if you were looking for an alternative to AGLT that handles aging and progressive themes a lot more naturally, I'd recommend Grace and Frankie on Netflix. Definitely worth a look, doesn't always hit the mark, but it's good comfort watching. Which brings me to the end of my questions, so thank you very much once again to everybody who submitted one. I hope the answers were to your satisfaction. If not, you know where to let me know. Thank you to everybody who watched this, and thank you to everybody who subscribed to get the channel to where it is now. As always, really grateful for all of you, and hopefully I will keep delivering stuff that you enjoy going into the future. But, as always, either way remember, if you can't be good, be crusty.